Hey guys, welcome to my home. This is Average Doug, and this is my second video on this channel. First, of course, just being the introduction, what we're about. It's one of these things that I've sat and thought about what order I need to put these different videos in. Now, if you're just wanting to go on and look at our channel and go on hunts with us and see what we're killing and things like that, watch the action shots and everything, then this channel really isn't for you. What this channel is about is being successful, and since it is deer season, it's about being successful in deer hunting right now. And again, it's for the average person who probably don't have the opportunities that that we see on a lot of these so-called reality TV shows or video YouTube channels. You know, that go on these paid hunts and all that kind of stuff. So this is about, about us wanting to become more successful whenever it comes to hunting. A lot of times we're either on public land or we're on permission land most of the time. Some of us have the opportunity to hunt on leases, and that's good. To be honest with you, I have found it better to hunt permission land than I have on some leases. But what I'm wanting to go over today is understanding, and this is the beginning of several of our videos, but understanding whitetail deer. It's important that you understand what it is you're going after, and I mean by understanding is what is in the life and times of deer. What do they need on a daily basis? Now, if you're in a military situation, and before military goes in to a battle somewhere or whatever, they look at the leadership of that who's leading the battle. They look at all the aspects of that individual. The individual being, how do they think, how do they work, what do they believe, everything. They get every edge that they possibly can in understanding. And so it goes the same with whitetail deer. Now, what I'm going to do and start going over is 4 aspects that you have to really be successful on finding property or hunting property. And really, this is everywhere. You can find it just most anywhere. You need, first of all, a food source for deer. The second thing you need is a water source. The third thing that you need is reproduction of the deer, sex. The fourth thing that you need is bedding. So let's go over the 4 things again. Number 1, food. Number 2, water. Number 3, the opportunity of reproduction. Number 4, bedding. Those are the 4 basics whenever it comes to whitetail deer. And if you're hunting successful property, you will find these 4 basics. If you're searching for successful property, these are the 4 basics that you need. So let's look at them. Number 1 is food. Food, do they have a good food source? Now, deer, we know deer can eat most anything. They can survive off of most anything. They're grass eaters. They have lower teeth, and on the top they have a pad. They chew. Deer chew cud just like cows do. They have 7-chambered stomach, split hoof. Difference between a cow and a deer is cow has horns, some of them do, and deer have antlers. In other words, cows keep theirs, deers drop theirs. Now then, they're grass eaters. They're not carnivores. They're grass eaters. They eat grass, they eat clover, they eat nuts, they eat berries, they eat twigs, they eat leaves, they eat fruit and things like that. So you've got to have, number one, the factor of survival for a deer is food source. What type food source is around? Is there a field on one side? Is there the proper nutrition that they need? Things like that. The second thing is water source. Now, water source isn't as big a problem as food. And let me tell you why. If you've ever walked across a field in the morning, then the dew is on the grass. All you have to do is walk just a few yards and the water transfers off of the grass onto your clothing, and the next thing you know, you're soaking wet. It doesn't take much at all. So a lot of times a deer will come out in the morning and will eat the grass, and he's also supplied with water. The other thing is, it doesn't take much of a water source to make a deer happy. Now yes, deer like nice, cool, clean drink of water just like anybody else does, but they're deer. They're like a dog. A dog can drink out of a muddy mud hole somewhere and go on. Well, so can deer. But if you've got a place that has the proper food source and also has good water in it, then you have a good place. Third thing is the ability to reproduce. That's really a no-brainer. I mean, let's face it, deer are deer. They have the ability to reproduce about anywhere, but where you see a lot of doe, you'll see a buck. Where you see buck, you'll see doe. So if there's a low concentration of bucks in a certain area, then you're going to have a low concentration of doe. If there's a low concentration of doe in a certain area, then you're going to have a low concentration of bucks. The reason is the bucks, you know, they're driven, and they will go out and find the chance to reproduce, vice versa. Okay, so that's really the bottom of the pile right now. But, you know, then one of the most important things, so food is very important, and the other most important things is bedding. Now, understanding what bedding is. Bedding is not a place where they go and they just lay down and sleep. Unlike a cow can sit there and chew the cud and just look at you and he's content. Whereas a deer has to go to a place, lay down and digest. And that's chewing the cud. So we don't think about bedding as a place for deer to go and just hang out and sleep. Bedding is more of a very safe area for a deer that can go, lay down, chew the cud, relax, digest its food, and then it will get back up and come back out to feed again. So with that in mind, we talk about sleep also. A deer is like a dog. They nap. That's it. They nap a little here, they nap a little there, whatever. I've had it on game cameras before where a deer will come into a pile of corn I've got somewhere, and usually what I do in the off season, if I'm checking out a piece of property, best thing to do is just set up a game camera and pour out a bag of corn and then go back in a couple of weeks and see what's there. You know, you can check, you can start counting your deer, you can see what the activity of the deer is and all that. But I have also seen in these pictures where deer will come in and they will eat the corn and they lay down right there and nap away. Or they lay down right there, chew the cud, get back up and eat. So they're content right in that area. So it's important to understand that they need food, they need water, they need a place of reproduction, and also they need bedding. Now, anywhere I go and I look for a piece of property, the two major things that I look at is food supply and bedding. So I just went past a piece of property here last weekend, and I was kind of scouting around for another piece of property where I can hunt. Now, whenever I hunt, what I like to do is I like to have 3 or 4 pieces of property, and this is permission hunting. Okay, I'm getting permission from an owner to hunt their property. I like to have 3 or 4 places. We have been hunting one particular place for the past 3 hunts and haven't been successful. One of the reasons is we're after a big buck. Okay, we've seen it on game camera. I mean, this is a not necessarily a super duper big body buck, but boy, he's got a rack on him that is something else, and it's just beautiful. But there are a lot of nice doe in it. Matter of fact, I spooked up some does. I was coming into this hunt and came in late. It was last Saturday, and I got there late, and I got a glimpse of the big buck on a road that was going through the forest there. That big buck, he saw me about the time I saw him, and he blew at me, took off, and then was back in the woods, and all I heard was that deep blow, you know. So the buck was over with. But then I got up in the stand, and I was in the stand, and I made a fatal mistake that I know better than to do, but I made that mistake. And that is, I thought the day was over with, and I came down too early. As I came down too early, I got into the area that I was hunting. I started down the roadway where I saw the buck, and there was 2 big does, and they were coming right to the area in which I was starting to hunt. They were coming to a food source. But if I'm driving along, and this particular piece of property I looked at, oh, let me go back, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun. If I stress deer in one area, now we've hunted this place for 3 times now without any success. And if I start stressing that, or if I kill a deer or 2 on this piece of property, I like to have another piece of property where I can go and hunt and let the stress level calm down on that first piece of property. Now, if I happen to get something on the second, I like to have a 3rd piece of property I can go to, and I can hunt there. Now, so if I hunt one piece of property on one weekend and kill something, another piece of property on another weekend and kill something, then I can go to a 3rd. You see, that gives 3 to 4 weeks for that first piece of property to calm down, for those deer to get comfortable again. And so the pressure remains down, because it's hard hunting one piece of property all the time. The deer get stressed out. That's a problem that you have a lot of times with a deer lease or with a leased piece of property somewhere where there's several people hunting. They will stress the deer out, and it's harder to hunt. So if you can find several pieces of property, permission property to hunt, then you're better off. If you have your own piece of property, then you know the certain areas that you can go to. So it's important to find that. I was needing another piece of property. And while I was driving down the road, I looked over and I saw an area, somebody's property that they had cleared out several years ago, and it has grown back up with a lot of underbrush. Anytime somebody goes in and they clear a lot of trees, if they don't get the root systems out, the next thing you know, they have thick underbrush coming up everywhere. Now eventually the trees will get taller that's there, and what will happen is all the thick underbrush will die down. And then I saw a wooded area. So driving along, I saw a perfect place for bedding, thick underbrush. Then I saw a wooded area, and then I was driving along, and boom, there was a big old field. There was a house that had a huge amount of property. They kept it mowed out there or cut down relatively small. And so I had what I needed, and that was a food source in that field and bedding in the next. So they had to go in between the bedding and in between the food source, which left me right in between there, that forest that had not been cut. Now it does not matter. It does not matter if there's 50 million acres in between one source and another source, or if there's 100 feet. It doesn't matter, because they will go from bedding to the food source, and that's where you want to be. So what I have to do in finding is find out who owns that forest area of that property, you know, that property there. And once I find out, I'll go or I'll call them, whatever, and I will introduce myself, talk to them. Personally, I like to meet them face to face, talk to them, and ask them if I can hunt their property, and reassure them that I'm not going to make a mess out of it, and I'm not going to bring a bunch of people around. It would just be me, maybe my son, or something like that. And that by no means I'm destroying their property at all. Sometimes they say it's no problem. Other times they say, you know, go right ahead. Or other times they say, I'd rather not have you hunt that. Okay, I understand. Thank you. Just wanted to check with you, because I certainly did not want to trespass in any way. So anyway, then you go on and find another piece of property. So it's important that when you have these things, you got to look. Now, if I went on, let's say I got permission to hunt that forest area in between the bedding and the food source, if it had water on it, man, I was in high cotton. But the thing is, the area that has the field where the deers feed, it has ponds, so I don't have to worry about the source. Now the only thing that I have to worry about is there actual deer on that property? And the only way that you can find out is to go on it. Look for trails, look for tracks, and all that stuff. If you have it, then you have a major piece of property. So learn. And we're going to look at each one of these things. What food source is. The second thing is we're going to check it for water source. The third thing is we're going to see if it's a place where deer can reproduce, if it has the right balance of bucks, does, things like that, and if it has the bedding. Now, if you will notice in any of my videos, and I'll show it to you, I'm always talking about they're coming from bedding, they're going to bedding, they're going here, they're going there. Bedding is probably the most important, because usually deer can find food just about anywhere. Let's say, I mean, there's deer in the middle of forests that for hundreds of miles don't have any food source around them, so they eat twigs, berries, branches, things, you know, leaves and things like that. So it's very important that you learn that, okay? Before you start anywhere else, learn these important things. So my next videos that we're going on, we're going to go out in the field, and I'm going to, as we go along and we're hunting, because I'm not going to give up this whole hunting season just for instruction. So I'll be explaining things to you as we go along in the hunting, what deer are looking for and all that. Now, I filmed that last hunt I went on, and I want to tell you, it was really good, but my filming was absolutely terrible, so I erased it. Came down out of a tree on this last one, and I was talking. I got out there, and I was hunting about a 10-yard radius. Okay, the entire hunt was in 10 yards, even though I was on 40 acres. And the entire hunt was in 10 yards. And the deer had been walking up and down this trail. Matter of fact, there was where two trails met into one, and then that one trail came off of it, and I was right at that Y. And the great thing was, at that Y was where some grass was. And you could see where deer had just stomped it down. But I was very tired, only had about an hour and a half sleep the night before. And I got up there a little bit late. As I went in, I got blown at by the big buck, which my son has been going after. To be honest with you, if I would have seen him, I don't know if I would have took him. I'd rather see my son get him. I'd rather eat a doe any day than I would a buck, but But I made the mistake in that I came down out of the tree too soon. So I decided, okay, now that I'm down here, I can talk normal and quit whispering and all that. And I pulled the camera up and I started talking all this stuff, here's where they come out. Now look at this little side trail. Here they made a path back in and all this kind of stuff. And I started walking out and was filming myself, and I looked up and there was two big does sitting there looking at me like going, what is this fool's problem? And when they did, they turned and started running down the trail. Now I'm sitting here with my face on camera. I go, oh gosh, I just made the mistake of the cardinal rule, and that is shut up when you're coming out of the woods and don't come down too soon. Man, they were going to come right into my feeding area. If I would have given it 30 more minutes, we would have got some great film of me getting a real nice doe. But, I made the mistake. And that's the way it goes. Just got a little too anxious, was tired and all that to come down from it. And but they ran down the trail, they turned around and just sit there and looked at me. And then my ears twisting around, their heads going up and down. Then they started that front foot stomp. I hate that. Something's wrong here, boys. Check it out, something's wrong. And then they blow. It's over with. Enjoyed the show. But anyway, food source, water source, reproduction, bedding. Food and bedding, the most important thing, at least this time of year, bow season. So let's look into it. Thanks for watching.